Okay, where are we? We got sexualization and body image in video games. Dang.
This was always going to come up at some point, and I've always wrestled with how to approach the subject of sexualization in video games because I know I don't have the popular opinion here. Like, I know I'm not going to get an award for saying what I'm about to say. Think deep down, everyone knows it. Boobs
Probably.
are great. I still think
True. Video's done right there. Close it up. We're good. We got him. Okay.
Back to the first time I saw Guinevere in Dark Souls. I mean, holy moly, praise the suns. This character kind of stands out in Dark Souls, and there's a reason for it. During the Design Works interview for Dark Souls, the director, Hidetaki Miyazaki, said this, quote, "Talking of glamour, her breasts have nothing to do with me. They happened without my knowledge. It's all the artist's fault. I think I mentioned earlier, but I always seek a certain refinement in all my designs."
I always seek a certain refinement in all my designs. Okay, if that's part of the sentence isn't like outing yourself, I don't know what is.
Really? Yes, but the artist had such a happy look on his face, I didn't have the heart to stop him.
Oh, that's why. The artist was a guy.
End quote. There's something about the candid nature of Miyazaki's response that makes it seem even more grin-inducing. On the other hand, there are people that don't share this point of view and find these developments disturbing, especially in the context of female characters. It's difficult for me to understand, but I'm going to try to do my best to relay what I have heard on the matter. Doesn't have to be Dark Souls, could be Nikke Goddess of Victory, any of the good Mortal Kombats, Tomb Raider, Bayonetta, Dragon's Crown, I could go on. Dead or Alive, The Witcher, Resident Evil, Street Fighter, Final Fantasy, Soul Calibur, Honkai Star Rail, Nier Automata, Red Alert 2 and 3, the Metal Gear series, Catherine, great game by the way, Blood Rain, Overwatch, I mean definitely on Reddit, GTA, Red Dead Redemption, and Duke Nukem. Let me know if I missed any.
Oh my god, the Duke Nukem with the pixels.
So anyways, my understanding is threefold. The first being that gamers feel misrepresented by the characters they play as, or even compare themselves to those characters and feel shame for not meeting the standard set by media. I mean...
Wait, what? Let me go back a little bit.
So anyways, my understanding is threefold. The first being that gamers feel misrepresented by the characters they play as, or...
Gamers feel misrepresented as the characters they play as. So then just add more options for customization, and that's like an easy fix. Like have the character, like I understand that having like a super in-depth character customization thing in like your game is, I don't know, like is it such a hassle as like a game developer to have like a super I don't know, like all engrossing, like especially if you want to make it like with all the different body types and whatnot. I'm just talking about like the visuals and like what you see. Like, would it be that hard to like have like a, I don't know, like a body weight slider, a boob slider, a butt slider, or like for guys, like, ooh, how much muscle do you want on it, and where do you want it? Like for this guy, what's his name, Luke? He's got like massive fucking forearms, dude. Like, let me like pick apart and then have a slider on it. Like, would that be like absolutely crazy?
Or even compare themselves to those characters and feel shame for not meeting the standard set.
So comparing yourself to the character and not meeting the standard. I don't know, cause like for me, like I go to the gym, but I'm like a casual. The reason I started going to the gym is because I watched like Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, yeah, that was like a little bit of like the comparison thing, but I just wanted to be like fucking Goku. That was it. And, you know, through trial and error, just going to the gym over and over again, it's like I still don't look like Goku, but I'm like, well, I do look better than had I not gone to the gym. And there's this whole like, what's that saying? Comparison is the thief of enjoyment or some shit. There's that whole thing. I don't know, like when you say like gamers do it, it just seems like, who are games marketed towards? Young kids. Young kids don't really have a big grasp on like life shit. So of course they're gonna do the whole comparison thing.
by meteor. I mean, duh, you don't have cat ears. The other is that the current state of gaming is nurturing males, in particular in the direction of misogyny, by holding women to unreasonable standards set on screen and then treating them as objects of sexualization or rewards to be possessed.
I don't know. I think both men in video games and women in video games, I'm talking about the video game, I think both are pretty sexualized with unrealistic body standards. Like, when's the last time I played a video game with like a fat, ugly dude as the main character? I would have to really think about that hard to like figure it out. Like any type of Call of Duty, any like first person shooter, or any type of like third person, like maybe action combat thing or whatever. It's like the sword wielding motherfucker is always jacked. I mean, look at fucking Dante. He's like running around with like his shirt off. He's got like, sometimes he's got a trench coat on, but sometimes he just, you know, got no shirt on and just some denim jeans. But, you know, then again, if you wanted, I could see the argument how women are like way more sexualized with like the whole armored bikini thing for like a lot of MMOs and shit, and Nikkei. I mean, like all the things that you mentioned. So, I mean, there is an element of it catering to your audience, because not only are games like kind of like aimed toward younger kids, well, not younger kids, but like, I don't know, like 16, 17, 18 plus to like 30, 25, 30, you know, somewhere in there. Like, not only are they marketed towards like younger people, just you take like the entire world. What is that? Like 7 billion something people. And then you add the umbrella of people that play video games. I would say more men play video games than women. It's just like a fact. All right? Like, and why would it be so bad to cater towards your audience to some degree? I mean, I could understand if like it's like a rinse and repeat thing and you start to get bored of it. So it's like, oh, I want to do something else. But I mean, video games are like a business. I mean, and I'm not going to just be like, oh, appeal to business, and business is just going to do what makes money and all that shit. But like artistically, then again, I've never really seen a lot of like ugly women in video games, to be fair. So, yeah, I mean, you do have a point.
The third is that they just fail to be immersed in the game because it's plainly unrealistic to them. Now, I'm not perfect, and
I don't... Me as a video game player fails to get immersed in the game because what? The people are just too unrealistic to look at? Maybe if you're playing like a single player game, that could apply. I'd have to like really think about it. But then again, like every game doesn't have to be immersive to a T. I don't know. Like if you look at like Tekken 8, or like what you said, DOA, Dead or Alive, like all those characters in both of those games are crazy looking. It's ridiculous. All the guys are like fucking chiseled out of marble. There's like not they're at negative percents of body fat. Okay, and then look at the women. The women are all like gorgeous looking.
And it's not my intent to strawman people, but obviously I'm going to have my bias as any human being does. If you give me a well-reasoned comment or correction, I may even do a
Bro, why are these like penis monsters? What fucking game is this? Oh my god. And what is this? Blood? What the fuck game is this?
follow-up video, but you also have to remember that we don't have the time to dive into the nuance of every perspective within the bucket of for and against in every scenario. For example, some of you might be fine with Bayonetta because her sexuality is rationalized in a way that makes sense to you, but maybe...
Wasn't it just like for the Bayonetta thing, they just wanted to make like a female like Devil May Cry game that was like super like artsy, and Bayonetta is like a cool ass fucking character, period.
you find the scantily clad katana from Mortal Kombat 9 so unreasonably proportioned and clothed that the only possible reasoning is that men find it hot. I mean, it doesn't exactly take a soothsayer to put that one together, but we'll get to that. I first want to tackle physical representation, and I think that this one is generally expressed more so by females, and yeah, I kind of feel the same. I, as a male, struggle to relate to most male video game characters. Most guys that are gamers.
So what he's saying is, I as a male fail to relate to like male video game characters. I mean, then again, what is this? What is this game? I have no idea what this game is. Like if I'm playing like Metal Gear Solid, what's that one where you're like Snake and you have like the camouflage button and you just like camouflage anything like anywhere? Bro, the entire game, you're staring at like Snake's chiseled ass the whole time. And it's like, no kidding, I can't relate to Snake. But I can like get sucked in to the game and pretend I'm Snake. I mean, essentially what you're saying is like, because the body image is so, I don't know, polarizing or just like too perfect looking, it's like it just pulls you out every time. This, I think I think Joe Rogan had a thing about this. Like Joe Rogan's like a pretty jacked dude and he does like comedy, but he said sometimes, or what he realized is whenever he would wear like tight clothes and go on set, he felt the audience was too distracted by like all the muscles to appreciate the jokes. So that's the reason why anytime like Joe Rogan goes up, he has to wear like baggy shit so people don't look at his body. They just try to, you know, gloss over like the image and just like appreciate the jokes. So I mean, I kind of get that. I buy it.
Gamers struggle with this as well. They just don't talk about it. This is going to take a while, but let me cook. I'm doing something here. This is me in my 20s, and then I did many years of gym, and finally I did my first fitness competition in 2018.
Nice.
This is me then. I don't look like this at the moment. The reality is that maintaining a low body fat physique is really hard work. Especially
oh yeah, that shit is too hard, man. I like going to the gym, but I also like eating.
Especially if you're trying to hold on to your muscle mass and you aren't using steroids. Now, even if I did jump on gear, there isn't any guarantee that I would blow up. I mean, I'd get bigger and my jawline would widen, but the thing that most people don't know about steroids is exactly how prevalent it is. And it's not just bodybuilding. I still talk to people that didn't.
Oh yeah, I mean, well fuck dude, steroids was prevalent in the goddamn Tour de France with that guy, the Armstrong guy. And he don't look like a goddamn muscle-bound dork. He was just like a skinny little dude that could just like output a lot of power.
No.
But then again, the entirety of the Tour de France at the time was doing steroids. And none of them were like classified as bodybuilders and shit. So they're just like shoot me up and just let me pedal my little heart away, dude.
That Arnold Schwarzenegger was openly on gear and everyone competing in Mr. Olympia when he was competing was also on gear. In reality, if you look like you belong on stage and you're very close to 90 kilograms as a man in the world of bodybuilding, then I have my doubts. Though I am being very loose here, there are some very average looking steroid users that don't have the genetic talent or know-how to be exceedingly impressive. Or they could seem unimpressive because, well, they've got quite a bit of fat on them.
Oh yeah, and like all the world's strongest men, they're just massive people to begin with. Yeah, they got like big bellies and whatnot, but they're like, they're huge. Everything about them is huge, except their testicles.
A lot of them are purposely trying to keep these things under wraps for obvious reasons. It's a topic that is surrounded by a lot of taboo and nonsense that gets in the way of clear consensus. Now, what makes this even more sinister is that our current day and age makes it very easy to take advantage of people that don't know this. There are tons of influencers and movie stars that have been on gear and then claim that they aren't, or even worse, they are selling.
Yep, the fake natties. The fake natties are the liars. Do not trust the fake natties.
fitness programs while claiming that their physique is obtainable, and yeah,
Oh, St. Patrick's Day sale, oh my god.
their physique is obtainable, but maybe not
No.
that particular one. Liv, where are you going with this? Okay, I'm getting there. The point is that the collective majority opinion on what a peak natural male looks like is unrealistic. It's just not.
The peak male like appearance. I mean, when you say that, it's like everyone thinks about like some like tall jack dude, you know.
On the cards for a lot of men, not without drugs.
I mean, and to be fair, when I was little, I thought that I could look like that too. I thought that I could, look like Goku, or whatever. And honestly, I was like very impressionable back in the day when I was younger. I mean, I kind of am now, but I would say I think I am less impressionable than I was back then, though. So, I mean, you have to also take into account like who are all of those like influencers, like target audiences. I'm pretty sure a lot of the percentage of each of those people, a lot of them are just going to be like young kids or like young boys, young men, whatever.
This is Eugene Sandow.
I mean, because to be fair, when I was like, I don't know, 12 to like, I don't know, 18, 19-ish, like the internet, it was really the thing. Like when I was that age, like 12 to like 15, 16, 17, I didn't really have, like, nobody really had social media back then. Like, yes, you had like the muscle and fitness, like bodybuilding magazines, but you had to like go to the store to see that shit. Like, other than like that, all I had to go off of was like anime, and that was it. But now, like today, all you got to do is boot up any social media, and within a couple clicks, you can just immerse yourself and fuck your algorithm up, but just by clicking on like some jacked and like fitness dude's like profile and shit.
Considered the father of bodybuilding, but also he lived before steroids, so you can trust that he's 100% a real man. Now, you could make reasonable arguments that more people are in the gym now, so there's a greater genetic pool in the sport and therefore more impressive.
I mean, yeah, there probably are more people in the gym, but from the perspective of like the United States, isn't it like something like about 5 to like less than 10% of the population actually goes to the gym? I think 10% is like pushing it. I think it's like more around like 5%, if not less. Like people just go to the gym. So, I mean, I don't know.
Physiques, and you could reasonably say that sports science has improved to make bodybuilding more efficient, and this is true. Something to
sports science, also chemistry.
consider, but I don't think it's astronomically different. To give you an idea, the winner of the WNBF Bodybuilding Federation, which is one of the few that does random drug tests, so, you can still cheat, but it's better to be charitable, Anyways, the winner in 2023 is Bada Lakan, and he weighs in at 86 kilograms, or 190 pounds on stage. For reference, Arnold Schwarzenegger was 107 kilograms on stage, and Mr. Olympia of 2021, Big Ramy, is 140 kilograms on stage. Broadly speaking, the biggest guy on gear is approaching double the muscle mass of the biggest natural bodybuilder. We need to talk about something else as well. The average body fat percentage of an optimal athlete is around 14% in males. Generally speaking, your abs start to really show at around 12%. This is the point where people will start to notice, but high-level bodybuilding requires single-digit figures, around 4% at the most professional level. Here is a barbarian from Dragon's Crown. This character is in single digits.
Oh yeah, that's negative body fats. Like his abs are feathered. All right, his everything is just feathered on this man. Yeah, all the striations.
Digits of body fat. I don't know of a single professional athlete that stays in single digits all year round because it's so incredibly difficult to maintain and it's simply not beneficial. So let's talk about male characters from a video game. I'm going to choose Soldier 76 from Overwatch. I mean, he's basically the Captain America of the universe, but he's also the
gay Captain America, but I don't know, Saudi Arabia just acquired the OWL League, so we'll figure out how that works.
average sized male body in the game. This works with Hanzo and Cassidy as well. Here's a side by side of Soldier 76 next to Frank Zane, 3-time Mr. Olympia. And yes, he was on gear, but he's...
And I think choosing Soldier 76 is like still being like, cause like he's not like cut up, but he's still got like crazy like ratios. Like he's like a model. Like look at 76, dude. Look how long his fucking legs are. These are like, this dude is like a model. And how old is Soldier 76? He's like 40, 50. Well, he's got gray hair. Isn't he like 50, 60, 70-ish? And still fucking jacked out of his mind. Look at the shoulder to waist ratio. Fucking arms and legs for like, it's crazy.
Also considered the father of aesthetics and competed directly with the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, obviously, there's going to be no perfect perspective here, and we're going to ignore the massive hands and forearms of Overwatch characters, but I measured out Frank Zane's shoulders, waist, and thigh, and then traced them over Soldier 76. What do you know? It's almost like the average Overwatch hero has a very similar frame and musculature to bodybuilders of the golden era.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. And even more so is crazy, because look how fucking like tall his like his hip area is compared to like Zane looks like a dwarf compared to 76. This dude looks like 7 foot whatever. Zane is like 5'10".
What's crazy to me is that Frank Zane was known for his narrow waist, and even though Frank Zane has the more flattering angle, he still doesn't have Soldier 76 beat. My point here is that the point of reference for many artists when they go to pencil out these peak male physiques starts beyond what
when you talk about like the artists and what they do, they choose the most aesthetic figure to put into their video game because it's the most eye-catching.
Is naturally achievable for most men, especially men that are not spending substantial time pursuing these physiques. Now, for full disclosure, you can definitely find male characters that fit more realistic ideals. Ethan Winters
I was gonna say like name me some, but okay.
from Resident Evil and Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series come to mind, but all these guys are classically handsome, and I'm gonna tell you something. You can change your mass, you can get some abs, you can put on some muscle, but the face you got is the face you got, and I ain't got that.
Yeah, and both of those like examples, those guys were like good looking.
Face. Also, a lot of games that try to appeal to more Eastern standards don't really value muscularity as much as Western cultures, but rather slim, tall figures with more of a focus on aspects like face symmetry, eye size, and fair skin.
Yeah, what? It's like, to be fair, with like I don't know, maybe this is like a stupid sentence, but it's like, I can't really tell the difference in like face shape. The only thing unique about each of these characters, besides like the face angle, is like it's just like the wig that they put on. Like you could swap this dude's hair and this dude's hair, and it would be essentially the same character. This guy, ooh, he's got like some little horns, and this guy, maybe his eyes are like kind of like sad-ish looking. This guy's kind of like chaotic, like evil looking. You just swap the hairs, and it's the same character. Like you swap this guy's hair and this dude's hair, it's the same character.
The takeaway is that there are tons of male video game characters that don't even have naturally or unnaturally...
Oh geez, you're gonna go to Chris Redfield, the man who is constantly flexing his triceps as you play the entirety of Resident Evil, what is this, 4 or 5? Just constantly flexing his triceps, just...
achievable physiques. Most of them are nowhere near the average male, and what's scary is that the general population are largely incompetent in discerning this, whether it be from the perspective of a male or a female. In fact, there is no study on this. Literally no one talks about it. For the sake of fairness, what I'm talking about here is applicable to women as well. For example, women retain a higher body fat percentage naturally, and they can't get as low as men without dying, but women generally have their abs show at a higher body fat percentage. Here is an example of a bikini pro. What's important to note is one, her physique is very impressive.
Yeah. I don't know. This seems like she is like really skinny, because I don't think these are like serratus muscles, right? I mean, maybe they are. Like I think what serratus is here. I forgot what these are called. These like little side thingies. But these look like just straight ribs like poking through. to be honest. And this is like this picture is obviously like a little bit touched up, if you know what I mean. There is like a filter on it, you know, the you can tell by the highlights and the shading. Like the highlights are like almost white, and the shading is like on the dark areas is like almost black. Yeah, that's a good indicator that this was touched up. But I mean, let's keep going.
I believe she's a natural athlete, but there are no guarantees. What I can tell you is that one thing is real. Boobs are mostly fat, and you need to lose fat to show definition. You don't get to choose where fat comes off of your body.
No,
All
you
this
don't.
to say that if you drop body fat for definition as a woman, your boobs are going to diminish substantially. Compare this to Miss Olympia winner Maureen Blanquisco, who appears to have not lost any mass in the ordeal. For those that can't do simple addition, breast implants are extremely prominent and sought after. And like steroids, by the way, a lot of bikini pros do use performance enhancers, but we're not getting into that now. But like steroids, it's more than you think. I mean, I sort of feel like people know in the back of their minds, they just prefer not to address it since, you know, it's harder to hide and they like it. Society approves. Anyways, if you're a female, you can pick one. Boobs or definition. And if that's not acceptable, then you're going to have to go under the knife. Female video game characters seem to have it all without any of the compromises. And by the way, Zarya and Junker Queen are on gear. Sorry, not sorry.
True.
Women don't produce enough testosterone to get that big without help. Oh, and then there's Abby from The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh yeah, the arms for days.
Who, as far as I can tell, is the only person in the apocalypse that has access to PEDs, a rigid training regime, and ample protein to sustain that otherworldly muscle mass. The primary driver for muscle growth is free testosterone, and comparing the high end of testosterone in women versus the low end in men is 11.6%. Women have 11.6% of what men have in terms of potential for muscle growth if we're being charitable. Now, don't get that number twisted. It's not 11% of muscle mass, but 11% of the hormone that is the driver for muscle growth. Yada yada yada, no one cares, Liv. Women that lift are kind of gross. This is also Maureen Blanc.
What? No, what? No, women that lift are hot, dude.
Pisco, by the way. I think a lot of people make snap judgments.
I mean, to be fair, like, anytime I'm in the gym and I see girls there, most of the time, like, I'd say 50% or more of the time, probably more than 50, they're doing legs, all right? Legs is still lifting.
It's about what people look like on stage. You train for years and years and you work toward a single season of being lean and then you fall back to a sustainable body fat percentage. I think one of the most harmful perceptions that females have adopted for themselves is that the pursuit of becoming physically stronger will make them unattractive. I cannot find a...
Oh yeah, like this is like a common thing in like, this was a myth, this is a myth, this is like fake news, that like a lot of the reasons why women or one reason that some women don't go to the gym is because I always hear them say, oh, I don't want to go to the gym because I don't want to get big. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. If you go to the gym and start lifting, you're not going to get overly huge like whatever you see in social media, all right? You're just going to put on a little bit of muscle, you're going to trim down a little bit, and I don't know, it's so hard to explain this. Because, I mean, much the same way that men's social media gets bombarded by like all the like jack dudes, women's social media, I would imagine, like their algorithms, they also get bombarded by, I don't know, like fitness influencers or wellness or bikini or whatever. Or, I mean, I don't know, like what started this whole like myth of if you start lifting, you will get bigger. If you're a woman, it's like, I mean, kind of, but not really, but like not to the degree that you're thinking.
Single scenario where it hasn't made a female more attractive and more capable outside of the use of performance enhancing drugs. Like I said, these extremes are unsustainable, but it ties nicely into wrapping up this detour. Real life is full of bodies that are not sustainable or even achievable for the average person, male or female. Video games and other mediums take these unachievable shapes even further from our reach. But I do think that there is a fundamental difference between...
I mean, because for the most part, it's a video game. There's a general understanding of, depending on the video game, there's going to be a little bit of this temporary suspension of disbelief going on. You do this with movies. You do this whenever you read like a fantasy book, or in video games case, whenever you play like a certain type of video game, there's a certain level of realism that your mind is just like, okay, that wasn't real, but it looked cool, so whatever, just let it go. There's a little bit of that going in there.
How different people see this. I kind of see it as the space between perfection and reality. Two lines that you can influence and draw close, but you never can align. My thought, and I think a lot of people share this, is that if you don't have a sample of perfection to aim for, you never draw close to it. That's why a lot of guys admire Arnold Schwarzenegger's achievements and try to emulate him, even if they know they can't do it without drugs. Even though they choose to stay natural, they still want that inspiration to look up to. I'll never be as muscular or as handsome or as skilled as the male characters I play as in video games. I can't be, but it's still beneficial to know that I could look more like that. I can become more handsome if I work at it, and I can be more skilled if I apply myself, and there's a fundamental good in having that carrot dangled if you see it for what it is. I think it's also—
Yeah, I mean, I still use this type of thing, just going to the gym, like just nowadays. It may not be like, and it like the images that are like, they change like daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever. I'll just like a random video will pop up and I'll be like, let's go try that workout. That guy looked pretty cool. Or it'll be like, I don't know, I'll watch like the RP YouTube channel and be like, oh, let's go try this workout. I mean, yes, I understand that all the guys on there are fucking juiced out of their gills, but you could still like utilize the information that is being presented to you.
also fine to be inspired and just do nothing with it. Like, I can play God of War 3 and not go to the gym afterwards. I don't need to be Kratos light, but it's nice to dream for a moment. Now—
Oh yeah. I mean, bro, when I saw the movie Mad Max Fury Road, I was like super psyched when I was walking out of that theater. I was like, oh, it hit my next workout so fucking like, you know, you got that scene with like the flame guitar guy, like just like going, and you had like all the car chases and crashes and whatnot. It was just awesome. Like you can have moments of like inspiration like that, and I think those are fine.
on the other hand, maybe you're in the camp that sees these characters and people as these impossible standards that you need to meet to be approved of by society. And my first question is this: who told you that? You want to know my second question? Why did you listen to them? What scares me the most is that there are some that carry this perspective like a backpack of bricks, and they want everyone else to stop and fill their backpacks with bricks too. And if you're wondering why people, and I mean people very deliberately here, male, female, whatever, if you're wondering why people won't take on your perspective, it's because it's harmful to them. You're the one that is peddling a dangerous ideal. Video game characters are not an accurate reflection of us. Not in the physical sense. Not by a long shot. Instead, they are far more a reflection of an ideal of beauty meant to please, entertain, and provoke inspiration. They have never been a finish line to cross. You're not
and he's saying this for like the most part. Yes, that you could probably pull some like outlier video games as examples that are like have actual like realistic body standards, but for the most part it's like, no, I want to play as the big jack dude because I just want to. It makes me feel cool, and I want to, whenever I'm playing a game, I want to feel cool. That's it. That's as simple as it ever was. That's as simple as it is. That's as simple as it will ever be.
Supposed to get to the point that you look like Lara Croft and then think to yourself, ah yes, I can finally be loved and accepted. But, and there is a but, female characters are more often sexualized than male characters. So I can understand that if you're a female, maybe you don't feel comfortable with Kasumi's massive knockers knocking around on screen in skin-tight revealing clothing. You don't see the art. It's not pleasing. In fact, maybe it's just kind of gross.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you should talk to the all the women that play the Final Fantasy MMO. Which one is the MMO? Was it 16 or some shit? I forgot. Because a lot of people play that game, and especially a lot of women, and they play for the RP, and the fact that you can get pretty detailed in terms of like customization in that one.
gross to you, which again is difficult for me to grasp, but I'm trying here. You might also feel like female silhouettes aren't as varied as male silhouettes in video games, and I'd say that I'd broadly agree with that assessment. But if you'd ask me if it's more socially acceptable to alter the appearance of men for comedic value, I'd also agree. So we find ourselves at an impasse here. Majority-wise, males like sexualization of female video game characters a lot.
Yeah, guys like hot girls. Guys also want to play as hot guys. This is not really news. Or at least I don't think so.
Not always, and not in every scenario, but we like it a lot. I'm not going to lie. Females don't tend to like it as much, but sometimes they do. Let's address the
I mean, if that's the case, like I said in the beginning, just give them more like customization options to make your ideal character. Who gives a shit? Yeah, it takes a little bit more like developmental time and whatnot, but like you're marketing your game to like a more broad audience, and you want to cast that wider net when you're like a video game developer. You don't want to be so niche and targeted when you make a game. You want to cast the big net.
Elephant in the room, are most video games marketed towards males? Yes.
Yeah.
Even though the most current survey I can find in 2023 showed 46% of gamers in the US are...
What? 53% male, 46% female, 1% other, no answer. Okay. Well, here's the thing with this little statistic. So when I say the word gamer, or like whenever the people like answered this question or this like survey thing to figure out how many people were male and female, I would say that when they say the act or the hobby of playing video games, they are also including like your mobile phone. So if you have like a little whatever thing of like Candy Crush or like some slots or like just whatever, some little throwaway game on your phone that you just pass the time with, they are probably also including those types of users in this survey. So in that respect, I would also say that if you're going to include like mobile games, and I usually do like say that, you know, as much as the hardcore gamers don't want to include the mobile gamers in the like the umbrella of, are you a video game player? Yeah, mobile gamers are video game players. It's like a get your foot in the door type thing. This is like what Nintendo does. This is like Nintendo's specialty. Nintendo tries to like casualize video games and make it not so hardcore. Because, you know, who are their competitors? Xbox and PlayStation and PC. Those are like the hardcore places where the hardcore gamers play. But Nintendo is more like, you know, family friendly and whatnot. But who is or not who, but maybe what is taking a chunk out of Nintendo and just video games like as a whole? Well, the mobile video game players. You know, more people, I would say more people play video games now more than ever, if you include mobile gamers under that umbrella of video game, like under that umbrella, period. So then I could agree with this. But if you were to just neglect mobile gamers, then I would say this would skew more so in favor of males and less in females.
Are female, I'd say at a glance that most games cater to male tastes. When I say that though, I don't mean it in the exclusive sense. For example, Call of Duty.
I mean, look how kids are raised, at least in the US. Okay, let's say you got a family, you have like a mom, dad, and then the kid is like a boy. Then you got this one, you got a mom, dad, and the kid is a girl. Do you think the girl and the boy are going to get raised the same? To some degree, yes, but to another degree, no. Who's more likely to be raised on video games? The little boy. Of course he is. Maybe the girl will get raised on video games, but she'll probably get raised on like other things. Like dolls, Barbies, things like this. I mean, maybe it's different now. I mean, I don't got no kids. Who I wouldn't know. But I mean, at least for me, I mean, I was raised on video games and going outside, playing with my friends. Then once we get tired and shit, we just go inside and play Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Duty generally appeals more to males, but if you take a look on Twitch, you're going to see that there are tons of females playing the game. Anyways, a bit of lore here. During the 80s, video games moved from the electronics section of stores to the toy section, and because toys were separated into male and female, video game consoles were placed in the boys section. This is one theory behind the gender skew in marketing. Furthermore, only 3% of people working in video games were female in the 80s. I personally worked in the video game industry in 2007 as a quality assurance tester for Orin Developments, the guys that made the RTS Dark Reign. Yeah, I know you don't remember. My experience was that the video game industry is not highly paid and extremely volatile. And yeah, I know a QA tester is kind of bottom of the barrel, but I also know what the programmers were earning, and it wasn't great. I still remember sleeping under my desk and having to wait until midnight to test a build that had to be approved by the start of the next workday. The truth is that video games weren't born as this extremely lucrative endeavor. Sure, the industry is huge now, and I'd hope that the value of workers has gone up, but my point is that many people that got into careers in video games back in the day were passionate people that were largely going against the norm of the time. It was never cool to be into video games. There are even records of some game devs leaving their names off of the credits of their games as to not affect their day job. Hideo Kojima told his friends he worked in finance when he started working at Konami. It was
oh my god, that's crazy. I did not realize that. It's like, even back then, which is kind of believable, if you were associated with video games at all, it was shameful. Like, oh, you engage in video games, you make video games, shame on you. That's not the cool hobby, that's the dorky nerd hobby. Nerd. And it's like, yeah, I mean, still to this day, gamers don't get any respect. It's like, oh, Super Bowl just fucking passed, and it's like, oh, everybody loves football players, and my favorite team won the goddamn Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, the game was rigged from the beginning.
Often met with disapproval from family and friends and seen as frivolous. The view would change over time, but my point is that it wasn't a desirable career for anyone that didn't really want it. Am I saying that women wouldn't have what it takes to work in video games back?
Oh, the amount of physics. Jesus.
In the day? No, but I think that there was a high level of risk, male or female, and I think even as a guy, I'm not confident that I would want to take up a high-risk, low-paying career for personal fulfillment if I had other options, or if I could find that personal fulfillment somewhere else. I'm not using this as a catch-all for why females didn't really engage with the video game industry. I just wanted to illustrate the mindset of the time and give it a frame. I think it's pretty common to
I don't know, like, why girls weren't really brought up on video games. It's probably because there was like this stigma that it's a boys thing, and you as a girl, you don't get to do boy things, you have to do girl things. That was probably it. And to be honest, like, if you were to just walk up to like a random girl and say, and then, you know, you go on a date or whatever, and you just start like talk back and forth about like hobbies and shit, it's like, if you, or maybe you don't even get to the date, maybe you're just like talking, trying to get a date. It's like, if you say the hobby, like, I play video games sometimes, for the most part, that's probably still a turnoff to most women. And for that reason, it's like, to some degree, kind of shameful to be like a video game player nowadays. But I mean, I think it is like swaying, and it is changing, but it's going to take some more time. You know, video games has only been like around for like what, 30, 40-ish years or something like that.
Look at the numbers on the page and say, oh, women aren't doing this thing as much as men. That's bad. Maybe it could have been better. Maybe it should have been better. But while we're balancing out genders in every career, we should probably help out sewage disposal. As you can see, gaming is doing way better than the sewage sector, with 24% of developers being female in 2019 in comparison to only 4.5% of sewage disposal workers being female.
Oh, okay. Sewage disposal, men. Sewage disposal for female. Yeah.
In 2023.
But to be fair, neither men nor women want to be in sewage disposal, period. Nobody really wants that job. Like, come on now.
Moving on, the next question is, why is it that only 24% of game developers are female? Why isn't it closer to 50% like the stat for gamers? Well, I think it's because they don't want to be. A lot of people online would like to assert that we have nurtured women away from video games, that the hobby has been gatekept by males, and that careers have been denied, and therefore there aren't more video games targeted at females.
I think that's to some degree probably true. How much? I mean, I don't know. I mean, everybody would need to throw together their anecdotal experiences into like a survey to figure out like how true this is, but that's never going to happen.
Do you think there has been gatekeeping? Sure. I mean, I know Blizzard has been in the news for its frat boy culture. Even when Blizzard hired Jen O'Neill as co-leader of the company, she soon stepped down from the role because she realized that she was there as a token gesture for solving the current lawsuits. You can also throw Riot and Ubisoft in there too. I'm not here to argue that racism and sexism doesn't exist and that it doesn't need to be rooted out where it's found. But there is something that the gatekeeping narrative doesn't account for. See this game? This is Bright Memory Infinite. It's a first-person shooter with awesome action combat set in China. It only runs for 2 hours, but what's remarkable about it is that it is made by a solo male developer. You don't know this game? Okay, have you heard of Minecraft?
Yes.
Developed in 2009 by a solo male developer, Marcus Persson. These are only two, but Stardew Valley, Cave Story, Turbo Overkill, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Choo Choo Charles, Mechs vs. Kaijus, Getting Over It. The list goes on. The one thing that all these games have in common is that they are created by solo male developers. There's no gatekeeping in solo development. I mean, it would be pretty.
Dang, that is a good point. So what are you saying? It's like, I think there have been like a couple solo female developers, but what was that one game? The like with like the dude brother and the sister, and what did they do? They killed their parents or something. I think that game was made by like a solo female, which is like a crazy outlier to begin with. So, I mean, I don't know. I can't really like be for or like defend against doing the whole solo video game thing, because just doing the act of doing like a solo video game by yourself is just daunting, period.
Difficult to create a sexist or racist environment in a company where you are the CEO and the only employee. So then where are the games made by female solo developers? Well, they do exist, but they are few and far between. The Ranch of Rivershine is one. I found 2 others, but one was for mobile only and the other was still in development. I wish them the best of luck. The point is that when our general population is left to their own devices, the people that really want to make video games and have the drive to make them successful are males. Again, I don't want to throw shade at the few female solo developers here. Can women do it? Absolutely. But most of them don't seem to want to do it enough to make a dent in the comparison. Researching this video took me about 5 minutes to find the games made by male solo devs. By comparison, it took me over an hour of combing the internet to find the one female solo dev game in r/gamer girls. Now, I don't really have any theories here. I'm not a psychologist. I'm certainly not tinfoil hat enough to assert that women have been brainwashed into thinking that solo dev games are only for men. So I have nothing to offer here.
No, you can do a solo developer game as a female. It's just hard, period. Just, it is.
Other than, I think women are less attracted to video game development than men, even on their own terms. Some people will only be happy once the number of female devs is 50% or greater in their favor, because they believe that finally video games will heal. They will finally reflect the quote-unquote right ideals. It will finally be your turn, right? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like unhappy with the percentages, go out and like make one and change the percentage a little bit. I mean, if those people are like that unhappy about it, I mean,
about that. You might recall this is just a detour. We're here to talk about why games tend to cater more toward male tastes when it comes to sexualization. So
yeah, because mostly men make them.
Yeah, more men making games is definitely a part of it, but, and this is an important but, men are simply easier to please. I mean, it's literally
Men are easier to please.
as easy as removing some of the armor or showing more skin. Going back to Bright Memory Infinite, look how easy it is to get money from us. If this didn't work, it wouldn't be here. Not convinced? What was the biggest marketing point for Resident Evil Village?
Oh yeah, the vampire mommy.
I'll give you 2 hints. This is a horror game. Lady Dimitrescu is barely in the game. Also, I thought that people were tripping when they found her really attractive, but, you know, then she picked me up and...
No, the fucking devs for this game, they knew what they were doing. 100%. And they had, like, the little female, the women, the little vampire sisters or whatever. Like, yeah.
Strung me up, and it was like my world changed. I was so confused on whether I should run away or spend forever in her chambers. Moving on, why was Megan Fox dressed like this in the Diablo 4 marketing? Every GTA game has a female in suggestive poses on the cover art from Vice City onwards. Here's...
Oh wow. Wait, let me see. Go back a little bit. You got GTA 5. You got, there's the woman. I mean, it's like a little square, like with her face. Come on. You got Vice City. There's the woman. Yeah. Then you got San Ann. Yeah. Yeah.
Poses on the cover art from Vice City onwards. Here's some DLC for Dead or Alive 6. So yeah, sex sells, but it's way easier to sell sex to males.
Yeah.
Literally edit some art assets, change some poses, get a voice actor to make a suggestive line or two, and it will pay dividends. Sometimes this can backfire, but I think it largely works if you don't go too far with it. And yeah, it's not necessary, but it's free money if the shoe fits, or if you can make it fit. Comparatively, how do you attract females to a product using sex? Like, this is a genuine question. Do you add genitals?
No, you don't add genitals, but what is sexually attractive to like a woman isn't gonna be the same thing to a man for a woman. So like, oh, for a guy, if you want to just make sex sell, just add like some women costumes with like less clothes. But like for women, you could I don't know. It's like in terms of like microtransactions, like adding a skimpy costume is just like easy. Maybe adding like a I don't know, like a domineering, protective like emote for like a man or something, or like a deeper voice, or I don't know. It's hard. It's a little more. You have to put a little bit more thought into it. It can't just be as easy as, I'll just take the clothes off, make the clothes smaller, and like tighten them up a little bit. And it's like, yeah, you could kind of do that for guys. Like you could like, you know, have a couple extra buttons down, like show the chest off a little bit, or hike the sleeves up, show the arms off a little bit. But I don't know. It's different for women.
And give them physics so they move around under the clothes of male characters? Do you take characters' shirts off? Do you make them wear turtleneck sweaters? If it was for my wife, I'd dress the character like they're from a K-drama, and I'd make them do chores around the house without being asked. But I'd leave one dirty plate on the table, and then when the girl goes to pick it up, he quickly grabs her hand and pulls her in, and piano music starts to swell. He smiles and looks into...
Yeah, how do you make this whole little experience a microtransaction? You don't, all right? It's way too tough.
Her eyes for exactly 3.5 seconds before saying, "I'll take care of it. Spend more money online, please." Like, I know this would be interesting to my wife, but what about my neighbor? What about my female work colleagues?
Yeah.
How many women would this work for? And how long do these interactions need to go for? How much money would I have to spend to put this in a video game that has nothing to do with romantic dramas? For example, Dead or Alive is a fighting game, 2 people beating each other up. But
yeah,
you can make it sexual for males very easily.
Yeah.
What is the cost of doing the same for females, and how much will it eat into the core design and game pacing? I'd actually love to see it done. Imagine a boys over flowers fighting game. But yeah, my point is that if I was thinking about game development in terms of cost of both money and time...
I mean, in terms of like fighting games, it's like, don't they have like little intros that the character does? And then you could just like make an intro for a guy to appeal to a woman, and then boom, there's your microtransaction. Like intros. Microtransactions are just become like the paid intros. Do you want this intro that makes you really hot and bothered and swoon over like Jin Kazama or whatever, or Hayate? then you got to pay like $3 or some shit. Honestly, it wouldn't be $3. $3 would be like the minimum. $3 would be like the green emote, and then like $10 would be like the blue tier emote, and then like the legendary emote would be like, I don't know, $50, and then like the mythic emote would be like $200, where he's just like, I don't know.
I think it's just far easier to use sex to sell to males and try to strike a balance where it doesn't hurt.
And then women could get in on the microtransactions are costing too much goddamn money. They can get some of that action in on this, just like the men are in like in other like free to play games. So yeah, bring that on.
I mean, there's a chance that if I make it hypersexual, I can get even more money, even if I get less sales, thanks to DLC and whale culture. I think that at the end of the day, women's tastes are far more, let's say, complex and individually specific. I mean, they aren't totally specific, but I think that they are more specific than it is for the average male. And hey, that's not a bad thing, but it's an expensive, high-risk decision that makes it unattractive for most businesses that are trying to make a video game. This sounds like a lot of opinion, but here's where I'm coming from. In 2013, a study was carried out where they showed 4 wristwatch advertisements to both women and men. These advertisements had various levels of sexual content and prices attached to the wristwatches. To summarize, women found the ads with sexualization distasteful, but were slightly more accepting if the price of the watch was higher. Men's reactions were more accepting of sexual content.
So what, they think that because it was like tastefully sexual with like a high price, it was like, ooh, this is quality. Chef's kiss.
Duh. And the price of the watch had no bearing on their reaction. I'm gonna quote this part here as it relates to what we're talking about. To quote, "In order to appeal to women, marketers using sexual images in their ads should therefore display sex in the broader context of committed relationship, rather than promoting recreational sex," according to authors of the study. They linked the findings back.
Yeah, women are more attracted to like the build up to it, not like the act so much. They more enjoy like the build up
to the sexual economics psychology theory, which infers men see sex as an end in itself while women link sex to a relationship commitment. The ad could, for example, position the product itself as a signal of commitment, such as a romantic gift from the man to a woman, although there was no improvement in attitude if the gift was offered by a woman to a man, or show the idea of intimacy or a relationship prior to any sexual image being shown. End quote. Now, I said that most businesses don't want to dabble in trying to use sexualization to sell video games to females, but I never said it doesn't exist. Dante.
You know what this sounds like? This sounds like the similar argument of for video games. If ever you have like a single player video game, and it's a video game where you can have like the good ending or the bad ending. There was some video I watched where it was like most gamers on their first playthrough of a video game will only play like the good one, the good ending, because that's where game developers will put the most time and effort, because they know people will most likely, I think it was like what, 70-30 or like 80-20 in terms of like percentages on like which, like, if you're only gonna play like a video game once and there's like a good and bad path, most gamers will only choose like the good path. So why put all your effort equally if it's only gonna be like enjoyed by most people on the only like one half? That's what this kind of sounds like.
From Devil May Cry 3 might be the best example of an attempt to sexualize a male character in a way that is more appealing to females. Also, there is a whole video game genre. Otome or maiden games are video games that usually take the format of a visual novel where you are trying to romance one or more male characters. These mostly play out in the same way most romances play out in written form. I think a lot of people will not strictly call these video games, but hey, that's for you to decide on an individual level. While the male characters in these games are not usually sexualized, they do exist for the sole purpose of romance for women. This is as close as we get to men as rewards. I'll caveat here to say that RPG games that allow you to make your own character and allow you to create relationships and romances tend to be the best middle ground. A good recent example of this may be Baldur's Gate 3, but there are many others. The key ingredient is that the more relationship building there is, the more likely it is to appeal to females in a sexual manner. manner. Anyways, we've established that more males are in the game development industry than females, and I think I've established my point that it's easier to target men's wallets with sexualization. I think this is enough to explain why there are more sexualized female characters, but we haven't yet talked
because it's easier to get money from guys when you sexualize the females.
About concern number 2. The concern that this sexualization nurtures men toward misogyny and incentivizes men to hold women to an unreasonable standard as sexual.
Yeah, wait, that I think that was a little bit of a jump in like terms of like logic. Like, so what? If a dude is playing like a video game or like reading a book or something, or maybe not even a book, maybe like they're watching a movie even or something, because they enjoy like the sexualization of women in the video game, therefore they will be misogynistic. I think that's a pretty big leap. I think so much of a leap that seems like mental gymnastics to me. And it's like, because you play the fantasy physical, or not the physical, because you play the fantasy video game where women are hot all the time, you demand that real life cater towards your fantasy of playing like whatever video game. Again, that's like that's ridiculous sounding.
Objects. At this point, we need to take a step back because there is a difference between sexualization and sexual objectification, and we should probably talk about women as rewards. An often quoted example of a female video game character that is sexualized but not objectified is Bayonetta. Even though Bayonetta is full of innuendo, sass, and, well, female nudity, she isn't considered as an objectified character. For starters, the designer Mari Shimazaki is a female. Actually, kind of a stupid point now that I think about it. Moving on, the argument is that Bayonetta's sexuality as a character is intrinsic to her confident personality and explained to a satisfactory level by the lore of the game. For example, Bayonetta's outfit is actually her hair, and all scenes where she is naked, she is using her hair to summon a demon, and her hair is literally the mask of the demon. Further arguments are that her sexual displays aren't for the benefit of any male characters in the game, and that her sexuality is self-serving, powerful, and somewhat mysterious. By contrast, let's look at...
I mean, yeah, you can apply the same logic to like movies that do like a fan service, or like shows that do fan service. Like, there's no actual point of like a sex scene in a show, or like an ass shot of a woman in a show or a movie. Like, that actually serves like no real purpose in terms of like progressing the story, outside of doing a little bit of like fan service. And it's like, oh, I got to see the dude's abs and chest, or oh, I got to see the girl's ass a little bit. It's like, outside of fan service, like those angles and shots, they serve no purpose.
At Rappy from Nikkei Goddess of Victory. This goes for all the Nikkei characters in game, all of them are female. So we can see Rappy sort of has a military uniform and some guns, so you can surmise she's a soldier, but the stockings and the skirt that reveals her peach every time she turns around have no context to the story of Nikkei or Rappy's personality. In fact, her attire is totally at odds with her straight-laced personality and affinity for order. This would be a case where a video game character would be considered sexually objectified. She is presented the way she is, not because of the story, setting, her personality, or character, but because her sexuality is a reward for the player. She is an object to be enjoyed. As you earn or buy currency in Nikkei, you then use that currency to have the chance to own one of these sexy characters. In Nikkei, you are their commander. All of the Nikkei like you and display some level of romantic interest in you. They basically adore you. These characters are the reward for playing the game. Therefore, women as rewards. The idea is that video games teach males through gameplay to see women as objects, because there are women as objects in video games and there are women as rewards in video games. These males will then go out and emulate this objectification and reward expectancy on real women. You know, misogyny. In 2022, a meta-analysis was conducted.
Yeah, I put in the nice guy quarters, and then in the gumball machine, the little the sexy ball goes down the little slide, and then out comes the sex. Yeah, it doesn't really work like that in real life. And yeah,
conducted on 18 studies. This meta-analysis was titled, "Does Sexualization in Video Games Cause Harm in Players? A Meta-Analytic Examination." Meta-analysis basically compiles and compares multiple studies in search for correlating data to draw a wider insight on an issue. Here is the abstract of the study, to quote, "Whether video games with sexualized content do or do not relate to mental health and body image problems in players and/or sexualization and hostility towards women is an issue of broad public interest.
Okay.
However, evidence from empirical studies has generally been mixed. To examine this issue, we explored the degree to which sexualization in games was related to both well-being, body dissatisfaction, and sexism, misogyny among players in two separate meta-analyses. Results revealed that sexualization in games was neither related to well-being, body dissatisfaction, or sexism, misogyny. Better design studies and those that showed less evidence for researcher expectancy effects tended to find less evidence for effects, as appears commonly in other.
So the higher the quality of the study, the less evidence there were for the effects. Okay, that's fair. So what? The lower quality studies probably swayed a little bit more towards, yes, because you play games that sexualize and objectify women, then you're probably going to turn out to be sexist and misogynistic, versus like a high quality study with less bullshit. I mean, and I don't even know what this means. Like, what better designed studies? I don't know what this means. Like, this person would have to like elaborate like what the difference of like what for all their meta analysis, like what the difference between a good study or like a better designed study versus like a not so designed study. Yeah.
Other realms of media effects, the evidence is weak that sexualized games influence player attitudes and behavior, end quote. What's interesting here is not only does sexualization not have a measurable effect on body image or sexism, but it actually exposes that we've been lied to if you didn't catch it. Studies that showed less evidence for expectancy effects tended to find less evidence for effects. This is scientist for studies that had an agenda made up evidence for their agenda. Or
the dang goddamn agenda targeters. Oh, dang it. They got to the studies. The goddamn agenda havers can have some agendas and they can try to have their studies. But god dang it. They just got again.
if you like, my personal twist, if the research came out of movements like body positivity or feminism, they were bullshit. I have some thoughts on this, one being that people that think that Bayonetta is not a sexually objectified character are leaving out a major variable, and that is you as the player. Ultimately, the sexuality of Bayonetta is for the player, male or female, to be enjoyed and admired. The mental gymnastics people go through to characterize it as wholesome in comparison to other forms of sexualization is baffling.
No, it's like a really tall, unrealistic standard of a woman, like super tall. Wasn't it in like art whenever you're like first learning how to like draw like humans? What was it, like how many heads? Like you have your head like right here, and then the body is like what, 7 heads like tall, and then models are like 7.5 or like 8 heads, and then here comes like Bayonetta, which is like 9 or 10 heads tall or whatever. No fucking shit. This is unrealistic. Yeah. And plus, like, her combat clothes are like all skin tight and shit. And because it's her hair, and her hair comes off her body whenever she summons the thing. Yeah.
All these people are really doing is bullshitting themselves, because the idea that a female designer could sexualize a character in a way that is sexually objectifying is incongruent with their belief system that relies on the idea that all women are equally repulsed and afraid of how men view women in video games. Oh, you're a female designer? Well, I guess it's empowering now. The God of War 3 sex minigame with Aphrodite was also designed by females. You know, the one that hypersexualizes the women in the scene, where they
I didn't even play like the old like God of War 1, 2, and 3. And didn't God of War like 1 and 2 have like the little sex mini game where it's just like hit the button and then the camera pans away and all you see is like the rumbling of like the bed, or the what was it, like a clay pot, and you like do like something with like coins, or like a coin, like a jingle sound would pop out every time like a bump would happen or some shit. I don't remember.
They beg you to pleasure them and then praise and reward you for your outstanding skill. Is this one empowering now, or were the women that made it confused, brainwashed, or evil? I have so many questions.
Yeah.
But let's get back to Bayonetta. Don't get me wrong, I can tell the difference. Like, yes, it's all explained. It's her character, yada yada yada, but I don't care. I can still undress her like a Barbie doll. You see what I'm getting at here? The other is that all video game characters are ultimately objects. These are not real people. You can't go up to Tifa and tell her that you had dirty thoughts about her cleavage. Cammy doesn't know that I lost the match because I was distracted by her ass. Even if I scream it at the top of my lungs. This is so obvious it hurts. Most people know that video games are a work of fiction and that there is a distinct difference between what happens in a video game and the social expectations of real life. How many—
You know, we're like, if you apply the same logic, like everybody applies this logic to video games, like, oh, video games sexualize this or that. But why not apply this logic to where's the same energy when it comes to other forms of media? Like either movies or anime or what do you call it? Or even like books. You know, where's books at? You know, oh, it's just words. You have to use your imagination. Where's the same energy for that, dude? I think it's just because you can take control of the character, and it's like there's more senses involved in a video game. Like you got there's like a little bit of tactile. You have to have a little bit of mind muscle connection to like play the game. You got to have your visual shit going on. What else? You don't have any smell or taste going on. Not yet. I can't wait for that argument when video games start implementing like smell and taste. It's like, this tastes too sexy. This smells too sexy. Can you imagine those fucking arguments, dude?
Many studies are there that prove that you can shoot everyone in the street in GTA and turn off your PC and walk an old lady across the road without having a single murderous thought? Does it not then stand to reason that you can sexually objectify a fictional character and then not project that fantasy into your day-to-day life? Doesn't it then click that you can sexually objectify a character in a work of fiction without it turning to sexual arousal and then acting on it? These are easy questions to answer, but I don't think anyone was truly listening, which I find pathetic. I think the great tragedy here isn't that males making video games are creating misogynists, but that there are a loud minority of people that don't understand how the average male even perceives sexuality, which is kind of funny because it's really simple, but they still manage to miss the part where we're generally not animals. Kind of sexist now that you think about it. Now, all of this does nothing to address that a great deal of females feel put off by cheap sexualization in video games. This is understandable, but we can refer back to the wristwatch study for that.
I mean, but then again, every single video game doesn't have like sexualized characters in them. There are plenty of video games where characters are not sexualized and they're just simply just characters.
This is going to address concern number 3, that being that sexualization is distracting and breaks immersion. In fact, I can give an example of when I found the sexualization of a female character in a video game a little weird. I recently did a review on Red Alert 2, which is a great game. They had Carrie Werer acting as Tanya, who is supposed to basically be the military version of Lara Croft. Her in-game voice lines are pretty gun-ho and, well, she sounds like a 90s action hero. In the acted scenes, though, she was just annoyed the whole time. Not action hero annoyed, like Karen annoyed. That was confusing enough, but what was really off-putting to me was when she suddenly fancies you at the end of the game and wants to go on a date. In the scene, she suddenly reveals her sexy black dress beneath her coat. Now, this isn't upsetting to me, like, I don't really care, but because of the contrived romance and the split personalities—
it was forced. Wasn't there like a scene in, what do you call it? There's this one fucking anime, wasn't it Fire Force? And it was that one scene where like the main character is like fighting off like some dude to save like some other like female character, and it was like a really good scene, but like the creators couldn't help it to like kind of sexualize the like the victimhood of like the female character, and that sexualization was like kind of off-putting because she was like in distress and like getting beat the fuck up, so she was like kind of crying or whatever. So that's like another example of like it was like kind of contrived from the like the creator standpoint.
She definitely came across as a weak and unconvincing character to me. Again, I'm not bothered by it, and I think that there are a lot of females that really don't care about it either, but I do feel like it would have improved the game if they paid more attention to her character and didn't muddy it by shoehorning surprise romance. I'd go a step further. It would have made more sense if Tanya had a sex scene with a random soldier. Think Private Dizzy from Starship Troopers, and we're getting close to what I believe players would expect Tanya to be like. But honestly, I could have just done with something more simple, like, I don't know, we drink beers together or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they'll get friend zoned.
Drink beer, but it still fits better. Anyways, scenarios like this are more prevalent in the eyes of females. I'm often going to gloss over the scenarios where the boob jiggle physics doesn't make sense, or the moments when the female character doesn't act like a female character, because ultimately it's pleasing to me that they do that. So what is someone to do here where they feel like they're the minority, where they feel like they would like a video game if it wasn't for that one thing? If you could just flip a switch and make the sexualization more nuanced or more in line with your interests.
Yeah, more adult, and not adult in the sense that it's more vulgar, it's more subtle.
Well, I'll tell you how to piss off everyone and look like a clown. Start advocating that developers retcon and purge their current IPs and fan bases. This is one of the most insane things I've seen in our modern era. And I think a lot of it is built on the false narrative that video games breed sex.
What is this? Is this like a thing? Who is advocating for this?
But let's move on because there's smarter options. The smarter option is to advocate for new games and IPs you want to see. This does still get backlash at times from real misogynists, because again, they do exist and there are misogynists that play video games. Now, while this is smarter, I don't think it quite works, and once again, I'm going to make an appeal to common sense here. If 46% of gamers are female in the US, and we can extrapolate that to the entire Western audience, and let's assume that they reach some sort of consensus on how they want games to change, then those games would already exist to fill the demand. This leads me to believe one of two things, and it's likely a mixture of them.
There is no demand.
First is that only Omega level nerds even talk about these issues, and the broad population of gamers just consume games and don't care about the quality of the content or
most gamers are casuals.
Future projection of the hobby. There is no consensus, and there aren't enough female gamers that care enough about it to want the change. This is the simple explanation. The second is that maybe there aren't as many female gamers as we think there are playing games as a hobby. Think about this. You can make money by playing video games, or at least there's a chance to make money by playing video games by streaming over on sites like Twitch. How many of you work a job you don't want to work, but the pay is good, or it enables you to live a lifestyle you enjoy? So then is it not possible that there are a percentage of both males and females that earn a living playing video games online, but are not interested in the landscape of gaming at all? In fact, maybe they never want things to change because their popularity is tied to a specific game. Now, out of males and females, and considering what we've just learned about the tastes of males, which sex do you think is more likely to be able to leverage playing video games as a business without caring that much about
this audience,
video games. For a case study, let's consider Amaranth, who is the top female streamer on Twitch. Now, to be fair, she doesn't usually play video games, but she did play quite a bit of Diablo 4 while the game was relevant. However, we can surmise that Amaranth doesn't...
this was like the most watched clip for Diablo 4, and I think it still is. I forgot what it was, but it was something like this.
Really love video games, and she has gone on record stating that her true passion is animal rescue. Here's her words in an interview in 2021. To quote, "My passion at the end of the day is animals, and I want to do an animal rescue using my platforms, but right now we're just saving money, milking it while it's good." End quote. Now, there's another layer to this. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. Amaranth's main business, or a large source of her business, comes from selling her porn content online in the form of OnlyFans. It's against terms of service to have adult content linked on Twitch, but it's common practice for streamers like Amaranth to link to a site that contains links that go directly to their adult content. And obviously, it's no surprise that her paid OnlyFans link is the top link. In essence, there are many female streamers that use Twitch and the gaming community as a street corner from which they can peddle pornography. Now, I cannot speak on behalf of Amaranth, but if you were to ask her if she played a lot of Diablo 4, she would probably say yes. If you asked her if she played Diablo 4 on stream because she loves gaming, I'm not sure what answer you'd get, but I suspect that the honest answer is that she enjoys the money she is receiving. Don't blame Amaranth or any of these girls, by the way. First, they wouldn't be doing it if men
didn't fucking pay.
Didn't keep buying it, and second, Twitch is well aware of what is happening and they have decided not to alter the TOS to stop it. Now, obviously this behavior is a spectrum, and I'm using Amaranth as an example, but she's not really the target here. The female streamers that I'm thinking of are lower down, the ones that aren't really taking risks. They kind of just play League of Legends and generally keep things above board. Maybe they have a discount code to Rogue Energy or something, maybe a cheeky cosplay here or there where they felt they looked cute. And their dominantly male community nods along and says, yes, very cute. You should do another one. Here's my question. If Twitch turned around tomorrow and said, Twitch will only have video game streaming, Twitch will no longer be a platform you can earn money on, you can't embed links, and the moment you try to verbally or otherwise advertise anything other than the video game you're playing, you will be banned for 8 hours. How many streamers, male or female, would stream? I obviously don't know the answer, but I think it's going to be something similar to the ratio of male to female solo devs. I think most people would leave, and there would be mostly guys that are really passionate about sharing video games and a handful of females. But I generally think that the cut would be more severe for females. Let me know what your prediction would be in the comments. What I'm getting at here is that nowadays there are incentives to play video games beyond the personal enjoyment of playing video games. I suspect that of the 46% of female gamers, there is a percentage that are actually closer on the spectrum to businesswomen. Now, just to be clear, I'm not excluding that it's also true for males, but I suspect that number to be lower as a percentage due to...
I mean, just look at Valorant, dude. I mean, you mentioned League of Legends, but like, what is it? About 40% of the Valorant player base is female compared to Counter-Strike, which is like what? Less than 5%, if that. And 5% is like generous. I think it's like less than 3% or something shit like that. So 40% like of the player base being like female, that's crazy.
Findings in video game addiction studies that conclude that males distinctly feel more rewarded when playing video games that involve territory control. I know that's very specific, but think it through. A lot of video games boil down to territory control or an allegory of it. So appropriating established IPs is gross, and maybe females don't exactly have the voice they think they do. The best way, the very best way to see the world of video games you want to see.
I mean, and also, like, in terms of like competitive video games, women just aren't competitive as much or as intensely as like their male counterparts in video games. You got guys over here paying other guys to pay other guys to data mine for a video game, to get the frame data, the timings, the spawns, the this, the that, the item drop chance, the zone close rate, the like, it's ridiculous. What woman gamer is going to be, one, competitive, two, competitive enough to compete at the top, three, pay someone to data mine shit for their game. It's like there's so many levels to this shit.
Is to put your head down, make the game you want to see, and get in there with everyone else. This is how video games started, and this is how new ideas are being created, and these ideas shape the future of gaming. Dota was a Warcraft mod. Now it's an entire genre and the most successful esports genre on PC. PUBG was a mod that impacted all gaming and spawned the Battle Royale genre. What's interesting is that most new genres and new ways of engaging with video games are not top-down. The commercial gaming industry doesn't necessarily govern the direction of gaming because changing direction is expensive and risky. The commercial gaming industry's aim is to preserve the status quo and maximize profits within that framework. It's gamers, be that male or female, that set the direction when they invest in game creation. What has been true since the dawn of time and will be true until the sun dies is that great games will flourish. So make great games, and if they have sexualization, then do it your way. way and be the change. Like I mentioned before, solo development and modding is an open playing field. There are no gates. Gamers have never had so much freedom to engage in shaping the world of gaming.
Yep.
Sadly, the stupid option is the easiest option, and people are kind of like a mixture of cats and water, so they're going to take the easiest path and screech the entire way down. But the old adage is still true: anything that is really worth doing is hard work. All this to say, if you really want this change, the ball's in your court. There are already women out there working toward a more female inclusive future. I would love it if they were.
Yeah, and if they make good games and those games like flourish, then fantastic. I don't really care who makes the game. I just want to play a good game. Period.
More games that were focused on the female perspective. I mean, I won't play them, but maybe my wife will. That would be nice. We're drawing to a close here, and it really has been a journey writing this. I mean, I always suspected that things like feminist frequency and co were bullshit, but it's crazy to me that our best study on the topic is largely ignored because it doesn't fit the narrative of our time. I feel equal parts vindicated and angry, and I think I'm justified in feeling this way too. For so many years, there has been this sexist movement that has infiltrated our general populace and demanded that I feel shame for something that has never had a negative bearing on my personal life as a married man.
Yeah. Why should I? I'm not hurting anybody. This is ridiculous.
Not claiming that there aren't damaged people that cannot interface with fiction, but most people aren't like that. I think people tend to try to focus on how they're different more than how they are the same. Men and women are not different species. We are far more the same than different. There are differences, and we've been explaining them, but anytime there is a behavior that is difficult to understand or accept, it's far easier to denounce the behavior than try to understand it. I see this as a modern plague in our thinking. I want to recognize that I understand that there is a deficiency in video games aimed toward female tastes, especially in the realm of sexualization where it's financially beneficial to target males. Now, I know that I'm a male, so perhaps my train of thought sounds self-serving. Okay, so then why are so many female streamers self-selecting to sell lewd photos of themselves? Don't strain yourself. The reason is that they have reached the same conclusion I have, and there is nothing quite as beautiful as when people agree with you by demonstrating it with their actions. Note that OnlyFans is almost exclusively a female domain and voluntary. In case we didn't have enough evidence that it's not lucrative to target female tastes, another example just jumps out of the bushes. Once we remove the incentive of pay, job security, and lifestyle, and we remove gatekeeping, sexism, and racism, if we focus on those scenarios where passion and obsession are the primary driver for game creation, there isn't a lot of evidence to say that females as a cohort want to express female sexualization or even make video games at all. This stands in stark contrast to the accounts of game developers.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if girls don't want to like have to do anything with video games, they don't have to. Like, why would you try to like force something upon someone just for the sake of everything being perfectly balanced? It's like ridiculous.
In the 80s that fiercely pursued game creation, risking their finances and relationships in hope of personal fulfillment. If there is a desire to see the video game sexualization landscape change, I can only surmise that more female devs need to take risks, at least to the same degree males have demonstrated. While I understand that female sexualization and objectification in video games makes females uncomfortable, I think this is fine. Reading female-targeted erotica or romance make my stomach churn with the misrepresentation of males. But I will never
like all these like softcore porn novels that you can go. I don't know if they're like at the library, but maybe like what's that store, like Books a Million or something, or maybe like on Amazon, like the book section, you can find all these like romance novels where it's just like it's porn just with words, with all the same language. Well, you can't really get away with saying like, oh, it's porn acting. It's a fucking book. It's like somebody wrote this. So it's the same thing.
call for it to change because I can choose not to engage with it. Or I can say it this way, I don't see a problem with a piece of media or work of art making people uncomfortable if it has an audience that enjoy it, following that it is benign or has a positive influence on society. Sexualization in video games is going nowhere. Sexuality is so intrinsically part of the human experience that it can't be ignored entirely, and it shouldn't be. It should be embraced in a healthy way, without fake science. My hope moving forward is that game developers will work towards making more granular forms of self-censorship. Maybe you can toggle breast reduction on or off, or something like that, for example.
Yeah.
I think
Give us the boob slider.
more importantly, it would be great if there were more targeted options for females, rather than the current push for more androgynous designs that successfully offend no one, but also no one likes them outside of political causes. I want to make this really clear. I want more games that would make me feel uncomfortable as a male, but you stay away from Chun-Li's thighs, you hear me? I don't think it's reasonable to expect praise for appropriation. Anyways, I hope this video was enlightening or interesting.
No,
I know
it was.
this is divisive, so please keep it civil in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
I was
Oh, jeez. No, the next video kicked in.
This was all.
Yeah, dude, this was crazy. This was a great video. God dang, I was not expecting this. Yeah. This was awesome. I love this. I want to see more. God dang. Yeah. I mean, I can't really say anything else, but I hope to see more, and I'm a fan. So yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.